Welcome back, everybody. Today, we're going deep on an opinion piece, a pretty hard-hitting one.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's about American politics and gun control.
Okay.
It's written by D. Terry Yarbrough.
Hmm.
He's a retired captain from the Shelby County Sheriff's Department in Memphis, Tennessee.
Oh, wow. I
Yeah.
think we've talked about some of his work before.
You might recognize his name.
Yeah. Misguided Badges,
Mm,
a personal memoir, and Blind Democracy, The Shame of Hypocrisy.
exactly.
Both are available on Amazon, by the way, for anyone who wants to check those out.
Yes, definitely
Okay.
check those out. But this piece, this opinion piece, tackles what Yarbrough calls political rot in America.
Political rot, huh?
Yeah, and how it's impacting, these really critical areas.
Okay, so let's break that down. What does he mean by political rot?
Well, he doesn't really hold back.
Okay.
He sees this rot as deeply embedded in American politics,
Mm-hmm.
particularly on the far right.
Okay.
And he's concerned about what it means for democracy, even for the Constitution itself.
So it's pretty serious stuff.
Yeah.
What's he pointing to as evidence of this rot?
Well, it's interesting. He links this rot to this erosion of core values,
Oh, interesting.
like a breakdown in moral fiber,
Yeah.
just a complete disregard for what the Constitution stands for.
Mm-hmm.
And he points to things like greed,
Right.
obstruction of justice,
Mm-hmm.
suppression of individual rights,
Yeah, I can see where he's going with this.
especially for people of color.
Okay.
He uses all of that as evidence.
Makes sense. So where does gun control fit into all of this?
So that's a big one for him. He uses gun control, especially the Second Amendment, as the prime example of this rot in action.
Ah, I see.
He's frustrated. You can tell.
Yeah.
He's frustrated with how the Second Amendment's being twisted and misinterpreted,
Right.
and the resistance to any kind of stricter gun laws.
Yeah, that's a hot button issue for sure.
Yeah.
So he sees this resistance to gun control as a symptom of this larger political rot.
Exactly. He sees this system as so infected that it can't even respond to something that's so obviously dangerous.
Right. Does he give any specific examples of what he's talking about?
Oh, absolutely. He brings up mass shootings.
Oh, wow.
Las Vegas, Parkland, Sandy Hook, Orlando, Pittsburgh, Uvalde, Buffalo.
That's a devastating list.
It is, and it's like he's saying, wake up, look at the human cost of this inaction.
Right. The impact is undeniable. Does he talk about any potential solutions?
Well, he cites another opinion piece by Thomas Babbitt.
Okay.
It was in the Palm Beach Post.
Mm-hmm.
And Babbitt argues that there's nothing legally stopping Congress from banning assault weapons.
Interesting.
But he blames public opinion, swayed by the gun lobby, lack of political backbone,
Yeah.
and gridlock in Congress.
That's a pretty common sentiment. It seems like a lot of people feel that way.
Yeah, and Yarbrough doesn't just stop at gun control.
Oh,
He takes aim at the GOP,
real thing.
specifically their embrace of conspiracy theories
Mm-hmm.
and just straight-up disinformation.
Oh, wow.
And he sees this as fueling the political divide and making it impossible to find common ground on anything,
Yeah.
let alone gun control.
He's basically saying this constant flow of misinformation is poisoning our ability to even have a conversation.
Exactly.
Yeah, I can see how that would make it difficult to address complex issues.
It erodes trust in institutions and makes it almost impossible to have a rational conversation about anything important.
So how does he illustrate that point?
He quotes Colin Powell.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Powell said, "We have come to live in a society based on insults, on lies, and on things that just aren't true. It creates an environment where deranged people feel empowered."
That's a chilling statement.
It is. But it fits right in with what Yarbrough is saying.
Right. It's like Powell's describing the breeding ground for the very rot that Yarbrough is so worried about.
Exactly.
So where does Yarbrough see hope in all of this? What does he propose as a way forward?
Well, he makes a really powerful call for unity. He believes Americans need to come together, find common sense solutions, and address gun violence. He sees these as crucial steps to save our democracy.
It's a tall order in such a divided climate. What specific actions does he suggest?
Well, he points to something called the Obama Foundation's 2024 Democracy Forum.
Interesting. I'm not familiar with that.
It's
What is it about?
it's focused on pluralism as a potential model for moving forward.
Pluralism. Okay. So what does that look like in practice?
So it's the idea that we can live alongside people who are different from us.
Mm-hmm.
We can respect those differences
Right.
and still work together.
It sounds like he's advocating for a more inclusive and understanding approach to politics.
Yeah, it's like he's saying, we don't have to agree on everything, But we can agree on the basic principles of democracy and work together to solve common problems.
It's a hopeful note in what's been a pretty bleak conversation so far.
It is, but it's a big challenge. And Yarbrough's clear that it will take a collective effort to turn things around.
So what does that mean for the average person? How do we as individuals contribute to that effort?
Well, that's what we're going to explore in part 2 of this deep dive. We'll take a closer look at what Yarbrough proposes as practical steps individuals can take to combat this political rot and strengthen our democracy. So stay tuned.
Sounds good. I'm looking forward to it. I think what Yarbrough is saying is, look in the mirror. Are we contributing to the problem, adding to the division and negativity?
Are we part of that noise?
Yeah, or are we actually, trying to build bridges, find common ground?
Right.
It's a challenge he puts to all of us, I think.
He's asking us to look inward. It's interesting, though, how he frames this whole political rot thing. It's like it's a symptom of something deeper.
Right.
Like a societal problem.
Oh, yeah, definitely. It's not just about politics. It's about a loss of, shared values.
Right.
Growing disrespect for these institutions we have, and just that inability to have, productive conversations.
Across our differences.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I think that's what makes his call for unity so powerful, but also so difficult.
But also incredibly difficult.
Yeah, because it's he's calling for a national reset, a return to those core American values.
The ones that have been lost.
Right.
Right.
Lost in all the noise. So how do you even begin to bridge that gap? I mean, it's easy to say we need unity, but actually making that happen is a whole other thing.
It's like, where do you start?
Where do we even begin?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Tough question. There's no easy answer to that. There's no magic bullet or solution.
Right.
But I do think Yarbrough is pointing us in a direction. It starts with being willing to listen. Genuinely trying to understand the other side. Where are they coming from? Even if we completely disagree with them.
Right.
And recognizing that shared humanity. Remembering that we're all in this together.
Right. We have this common destiny as Americans.
Yes, exactly.
We got to put the country before the party.
Right.
Put the common good ahead of our own individual interests. And that takes a sense of civic responsibility.
Oh, for sure. Recognizing that each of us has to play a role
in making this democracy work.
Yeah, we can't just sit back and complain about how things are.
Right.
We have to actually be engaged, be citizens who are willing to roll up their sleeves and get involved.
You got to participate.
Yeah.
But what does that look like practically?
That's a great question. How do we as individuals contribute to a more unified political discourse?
Well, for one, we have to be informed.
Okay.
We need to understand the issues.
Yeah.
Be able to talk about them thoughtfully, and hold our elected officials accountable.
Right. Make sure that they're actually representing us, right? And working to solve problems, not just scoring political points.
Right. Not just playing the game.
Right. Exactly. And we need to be respectful even when we disagree.
That's a hard one.
It is a hard one, but it's crucial. Because we need to remember that even the people that we completely disagree with, they're still Americans.
They're our neighbors.
Yeah, we have to find a way to coexist, to work together, even if we don't agree on everything.
It's not about agreeing on everything.
Right, exactly.
It's about being able to find those points where we can.
Yes, absolutely.
It's so easy to demonize the other side, to see them as the enemy.
Oh, I know. It's so tempting to fall into that trap.
Right, but that thinking just leads to more division, more gridlock, and Yarbrough seems to think we need to break out of that cycle. And that civil discourse, finding that common ground, that's the only way we're going to address these real challenges.
He's absolutely right. We can't keep going down this path of division.
It's just dysfunction.
Yeah, we need to come together, start working towards that shared future.
Now, Yarbrough uses gun control as that prime example
of
where this political rot has taken hold. He argues the refusal to enact stricter gun laws, even after so much tragedy. It's a symptom of a deeper political dysfunction. And he's especially critical of what he sees as the GOP's resistance to any form of gun control. And he links that to their embrace of conspiracy theories and disinformation.
Oh, wow. So he's connecting it to those broader trends we talked about earlier.
Exactly. And he's saying it's like this pattern of putting ideology over the facts, putting political gain over the well-being of people.
Over people's lives in some cases.
And to really drive that point home, he uses those heartbreaking examples of mass shootings. Las Vegas, Parkland, Sandy Hook, so many others. To highlight the human cost of this inaction. He's reminding us these aren't just statistics, they're real lives lost, families shattered, communities torn apart.
It's a powerful reminder of the stakes involved in this debate.
It's a powerful indictment of a political system that can't respond to this danger.
It's like it's frozen, unable to act.
He brings up that opinion piece by Thomas Babbitt.
Okay, right, in the Palm Beach Post.
In the Palm Beach Post, yeah. The one that specifically addresses banning AR-15 style weapons.
Right.
And Babbitt argues that a ban is both legally and constitutionally permissible.
He's saying it's possible.
It's possible. And he puts the blame for the lack of action on the influence of the gun lobby.
The power of those special interests.
And a failure of political courage.
Right, a lack of willingness to stand up for what's right.
What I found so compelling about Babbitt's argument was that he challenges that assumption that the Second Amendment is just like this insurmountable barrier to any meaningful gun control.
Oh, that's an interesting point.
He's saying there's actually more room for action than people realize.
So if that's the case, why haven't we seen more progress on this?
Why are we stuck?
Yeah, why are we stuck in this cycle of tragedy and inaction?
I think Yarbrough would argue that it goes back to that concept of political rot.
Okay, the rot is preventing progress.
It's the influence of special interests, the power of the gun lobby, and the unwillingness of politicians to stand up to those forces, even when lives are at stake.
It's like they're prioritizing their own self-interest over the common good.
He talks about the role of misinformation.
How that plays into this.
How it's used to distort the facts, to scare people into opposing any kind of gun control, no matter how sensible it might be.
It's a tactic of fear and division, isn't it?
It's a deliberate tactic, and it plays right into that Colin Powell quote.
The one about lies and insults.
Yeah, how a society built on those things creates an environment where deranged people feel empowered.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a chilling thought.
Yeah.
But it speaks to the danger we face when we let misinformation and hateful rhetoric take root.
Because it creates that climate of fear.
Fear and distrust.
Yeah, it makes it impossible to have those rational conversations.
About these complex issues. And in that environment, extremism flourishes.
It becomes a breeding ground for that.
And violence becomes the answer.
It's a dangerous path we're on. So where do we go from here? How do we actually start to heal this rot?
And move towards, a more functional, less violent society.
Well, Yarbrough, he believes it starts with unity.
Okay.
But he ties that in with racial harmony. He thinks bridging that divide, that racial divide, is absolutely essential to, fighting this political rot and strengthening our democracy as a whole.
So it's not just about, coming together across political lines. It's about healing those deeper wounds.
Yes.
Of racial inequality, racial injustice.
Absolutely. It's like we can't be truly united if we're still struggling with these fundamental issues of fairness.
Right, like it's an open wound that keeps us from moving forward together.
Exactly.
And he's not talking about just empty gestures or nice-sounding rhetoric.
No.
He wants to see action, concrete steps.
Yeah, real change.
To address systemic racism and create a more just and equitable society for all Americans.
That's the key, for all Americans.
And he sees that as a key part of fixing our democracy.
Well, a democracy that doesn't work for all of its citizens is a democracy in trouble.
Exactly.
You can't have one without the other.
And, he points to the Obama Foundation's 2024 Democracy Forum as like a possible model for how we can start to bridge these divides. He's drawn to their focus on pluralism as a core principle.
Pluralism. You know what I find so fascinating about that is it goes beyond just tolerating differences.
Right.
It's about embracing them, recognizing they actually make us stronger.
As a society.
As a society, yeah.
It's about creating a space where everyone feels like they belong, where their voices are heard, where they can contribute to the common good.
It's a powerful vision, especially now when so many forces seem to be pulling us apart.
It really is.
I think that's what Yarbrough is getting at. We have a choice.
Yeah.
We can keep going down this road of division and dysfunction.
Right.
Or we can choose a different path, a path of unity.
Of healing and progress.
Healing progress, exactly.
He's challenging us to choose hope over fear, unity over division.
Yeah.
And a future where all Americans have that opportunity to thrive.
It's a powerful message.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into Yarbrough's perspective, I think the question he leaves us with is,
what's that?
What role will each of us play in shaping the future of American democracy?
It's a big question.
It's a question that goes way beyond just politics. It's about like our values, our beliefs, and our actions.
It's about how we treat each other, how we show up in our communities.
How we hold our leaders accountable.
Yeah, he's calling on us to be active participants.
In this democracy,
Not passive observers.
not just sitting on the sidelines.
We have to be the change we want to see.
And if you're feeling inspired to learn more about Yarbrough's work, remember, you can find his books,
Yes.
Misguided Badges, A Personal Memoir, and Blind Democracy, The Shame of Hypocrisy. They're both available on Amazon.
Definitely check those out. They're really thought-provoking.
And they give you even more insight into his views on policing, on politics, and just the state of our democracy.
And as always, we encourage you to keep this conversation going.
Share your thoughts.
Perspectives.
Engage in respectful dialogue, even with people who see things differently than you do.
Because ultimately, the future of our democracy depends on us.
On all of us working together to build that more just, equitable, and unified nation.
Well said.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.
It's been a great conversation.
We'll see you next time.